Hey team, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian, core design engineer with Brunswick Bowling, and today we're taking a look at the two newest releases in the Radical lineup. They are the Outer Limits Solid and the brand new Snapshot. Both of these balls have been out on the market now, and we are doing some bonus content where we're looking at the comparison chart that can be found on Radical Bowling's website. All you have to do is go to radicalbowling.com, click on the bowling ball that you're interested in looking at, scroll all the way down to the resources tab, and there you will find a link to download and open the comparison chart as a PDF to your PC, phone, or tablet. So you can follow right along with me or use it as a quick reference anytime you want to see where the new balls fall on Radical Bowling's comparison chart relative to their current arsenal that is also on the chart. Now, before we get into the chart specifics, I do want to give a couple promotional shout outs here. If you go to the Perception versus Reality podcast that is on YouTube under the Radical Bowling banner, then you can click on live, find the Perception versus Reality podcast archive, and find Data Talks with Stevie Fresh. That is Steve Freshour, the core design engineer for Radical. He has a lot to say about this new Snapshot in the latest video, so make sure that you go give that a listen if you're really interested in how the post-drill numbers really change and affect this core. I also did a Radical rundown on Radical Bowling's Facebook page and YouTube page, where we went in depth about how the intersection of the holes can really affect the post-drilled numbers of this super symmetrical core in this new Snapshot. But not only that, something that is very unique about these super symmetrical cores with Steve's designs in them, you can actually swing the drilling angle, as in swing the theoretical PSA, out toward the VAL angle and affect the numbers. And the change might not be what you think it is, but it's very interesting. Because these balls aren't marked with the PSA, we're using the CG, and I go in a great deal of detail about that, so you can really fine-tune the core numbers after drilling in this super symmetrical design. So my New Year's resolution to myself was to keep these ball motion chart videos shorter and sweeter, because there's a lot of content between myself, Steve, Phil, that is readily available to get you all the information that you need to know about these new releases. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in and take a look at the comparison chart. Radical fans, you should be intimately familiar with this chart by now. It is sorted by oil volume on the bottom from left to right and response to friction from top to bottom, with the sharpest responding balls at the top, the smoothest responding balls at the bottom. And we're going to zoom in and take a look at the brand new Outer Limits Solid, a very beautiful ball, but more than that, it's been a really strong performer for Radical fans. It is the big ball at the top of your bag, but it's not too early, too diggy, and too slow down lane. It actually has really great continuation. It has a relatively long hook window, which is actually relatively unique for an asymmetrical ball. This isn't extremely asymmetric. Before drilling, it's only 15 intermediate differential, so it really is kind of on the lower end of that asymmetry line. Of course, you can boost it with a strong, sharp layout, but you can also leave it relatively neutral after drilling. But the thing about this HK22 solid cover stock on this one is that it is more sweeping, more arcing, more continuous motion than you would expect, and it's a little more down lane than I think people were expecting for a big asymmetrical solid. Compared to a max bias, you see that they kind of occupy the same range on the chart, but I have the max bias being quite a bit more in the mid lane with a much straighter path through the pins, more of a traditional hook set motion due to that high asymmetry and that really big diggy early cover. And a little bit likewise with the zigzag. The zigzag is a higher response to friction. It gets down the lane easier because it has less total differential before drilling at 0.45, but even though it's flaring less, it slows down and reads the mid lane really hard with an aggressive change of direction due to the shape of that core with its strong moment arms. That ball changes direction in the late mid lane really abruptly, and because of that, it too can get a little smoother, a little more forward down lane. So the Outer Limits, circling back now, is to me a little bit unique to the bowler's eye because it both is a little more smooth and continuous and a little more down lane than you expect out of a big asymmetrical bowling ball. And because of that, it's going to occupy usefulness on a wider range of conditions at the top of your bag. Moving over now and taking a look at the new super symmetrical Snapshot, you can see this is about as high as we put any ball on the chart. We really believe this one's response to friction, especially for a symmetrical ball, is next to nothing that is currently in the Radical lineup. Of course, you can get close with the hitter pearl, but remember the hitter pearl is asymmetric with a lower intermediate differential, but still some asymmetry before you drill into it. Now, of course, the asymmetry is going to go up a little bit when you drill the hitter pearl, which means it's going to have a stronger mid-lane read, and that stronger mid-lane read is going to help it blend and be a little rounder and a little smoother off of the friction than the Snapshot. The Snapshot plays in a similar total differential range at 0.50 total differential. It's technically no intermediate differential before drilling, but if you drill into that nose, you can make it a relatively asymmetrical bowling ball after drilling. Because of that, you get some of that sharpness and abruptness in the hook window, meaning that it responds quickly to friction when it encounters it and changes direction and slows down in a hurry. But because of its higher RG playing in the 2.52 and some change range, that means that this one is going to rev up a little later, get down the lane a little easier compared to balls like the hitter, which is in the 250 range, or the No Doubt, which is in the 248 range in RG. So compared to Electral No Doubt, this Snapshot is just a little later revving, certainly sharper responding to friction, and because of that, even though it's cleaner, it does cover more boards at the back of the lane and cover more boards in total. So because of that, it can handle maybe just a little more oil volume, but because it has some asymmetric tendencies to have a sharp hook window and good secure mid lane, that means that it can handle just a little more oil volume than you might expect out of a slightly higher RG pearl. That's the information I have on these two new releases from Radical. They're on Pro Shop shelves right now, so make sure you swing into your local Pro Shop and pick one up. I gave you guys some homework. Go check out the Radical Rundown where we talk in depth about the Snapshot core shape and the numbers after drilling, and give Perception versus Reality a listen. The Data Talks with Stevie Fresh episode is going to be the one that gives you a little more in-depth drilling analysis, including what the finger intersection into the core looks like in the 3D CAD model. So if you're a nerd like me, that might be a really interesting thing to check out in your free time. Of course, if you're not already following my channel, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe. I make new videos every time we come out with a new core design in the brands of Brunswick, and of course, if we have a cover refresh over top of an existing core, I'm going to make shorts on my YouTube Shorts tab for those reviews as well.